session will mean that if you do switch your camera on or you unmute your microphone, you will be recorded, and this video will be on the Turn On YouTube channel. We will take questions. You can either place the questions into the chat, that's a speech bubble on the meeting bar, and I'll be happy to pick those up, and I'll come back periodically and get them started. Or we will then pause at a couple of points during the assignments bite-sized session and just answer any questions that you have. For those people who haven't been to one of our bite-sized training sessions before, we are putting these on to support all educational staff with trying to deliver distance learning and making sure that distance learning is as easy for you to deliver as possible and as seamless as possible for parents and pupils. We are focusing on just one small aspect of Office 365 or Teams in each session. So today we are going to look at just having a exploration session on using assignments in Teams, and then during other sessions we will come back and look at other aspects of Teams or tools that are really useful for supporting distance learning. I know I can see some of you on here have been in the previous bite-sized session, so welcome back, and also a warm welcome to anyone that's joining us for the first time today. I will also be moving into next week looking at the final areas of Teams, so we'll have a look at some of the more complex management of using Teams, and we'll also look at some of the wider apps in Office 365. There will be people joining the meeting that are still coming in, so anyone coming into the meeting, we'll just pick up what's going on, but if everyone else, you just stick with it, that'd be great. Well, I'm just going to swap the screen I am sharing. So we're going to have a look at a live session this afternoon, and for the purpose of this afternoon's training, we're going to use the web version of Office 365. You will spend more and more time looking at the web version rather than using any desktop software, and it's certainly how everything meshes together. I'm going to use Teams as a tab in a web browser, but you may be using Teams as an app. It doesn't matter as far as the assignment experience, it will be the same wherever you go. So how I just got across to Teams is I clicked the Teams from the Office 365 landing page. You can also click it from the app launcher in the top left-hand corner, and it will open up. If you are using a web browser, you may get a prompt for it to allow use of your camera and your microphone. Please feel free to just press allow. There's nothing suspicious about that. You're not going to cause any problems. It just means that Teams can use the features on your computer to deliver the learning. I'm going to use a primary demo classroom this afternoon, so I'm just going to go in there and we're going to move across to the assignments tab. In assignments, when you arrive, you may be presented with absolutely nothing at all. But because I've been using my assignments, I've got 3 live assignments that are assigned. And if I open up the collapse section at the top for drafts, I've got 3 drafts in there, and those drafts are something that I've been working on, and I'll come back to those in a bit. And then down the bottom, if I'd had any assignments where everything was returned and handed in, you can see here for the example of Oak Academy geography class, I've got 2 pupils that have handed it in out of 4 pupils, so there's 2 remaining. So once they're all 4 handed in, it will move to the return section at the bottom. So for me as a teacher, I can still set homework, even though I've got pupils scattered everywhere and working out of reach of school. The work can still get to them over the internet, and it will still work on being able to get to the assignment section even if they're working on a smaller device. I accept that the screen size makes things a little bit more fiddly, but the Teams app's also available on Android devices and Apple iPhones, so you can still get to the assignment that's set. When you come to create something for the first time, you go to the create button in the bottom left hand corner, and you'll get a few options. You're either going to be able to choose from an existing assignment, and if you've been a heavy user of assignments previously, you will know that you can go in and you can recycle work that you've already done, and that's really useful to save us time. We're all quite hard pressed and we don't want to be reinventing the wheel every time. So from existing becomes more powerful and more useful once you've had a go at creating a few assignments, and particularly when you come to a second academic year, you can bring your assignments across into a new team and you can start using them again. You'll have quizzes. We're not going to labour those too much today, but that launches Microsoft Forms. We do have future training sessions planned on using Microsoft Forms. That allows you to either assess progress in learning with the class that you're currently teaching. Maybe you just want to know if the learning is secure from something you've been doing this week or in a previous week. It's also quite useful. I often set up a quick quiz relating to something that pupils may have studied in the previous year, be it maths or English, and I'm revisiting it this year, and I just want to know if they've remembered and brought with them everything they should know. They may not, so I might need to factor that into my teaching, and having a Microsoft form to do that is quite useful. So quizzes there linked to Microsoft Forms, and it's a really nice, easy way of getting that sorted for you. You can also, from the last option on there, set an assignment. And today we're going to focus on setting that assignment and understanding what it is that you're doing. So from my assignment that I've got here, I've got various empty boxes, and those empty boxes are from a teacher's perspective. Pupils would never see this set assignment side. They just get the end product of an assignment that's been created. Rather than go through and waste precious time on filling in every single box, I'm going to use a pre-filled version and add to it so that we can see what it looks like, and it gives you more of a flavour of how you might shape the assignments that you're using. So I'm just going to discard the blank version, pop up to the top and pick up a draft that I've used previously. So this is something that I'm going to be working on with Year 5. And we're looking at information text in English. To help direct you and also pupils, some subjects are easily broken down into those subcategories or maybe a particular focus. If I was in secondary, I might want to break down my science assignments into physics and biology and chemistry. And then might be areas of maths at Key Stage 2 or English. So I've got here a tag to say this is reading. If I didn't want that tag category, I can get rid of it, but I can easily add them back in as well. So you can, here's one that I've used previously from an assigned assignment. I could have it as writing, but I'd like to have a new tag, and I know I've just deleted it, but we're going to have reading and add it back in. Then it does help if you press return at the end. There we go. Reading is in there now and it's attached. I've given it a title. The title doesn't have to be too prescriptive, but it just gives you a flavour, particularly when you've got multiple assignments set up, as to which set of pupils it's for or which week it was from. If something's been held over from the previous week and you're doing information text for a couple of weeks, you might want to give a description in that title, because it's the title that you see when you're looking at the view we were looking at the beginning, where you're just seeing the title summary and the date it's due in and how many people have returned it. The next section you will have to complete will be the instructions. When you click on it, you've got some simple text editing tools at the top. You can also link a website. So if you subscribe to other services, this was maths, you might have a subscription to My Maths, or you may be in English going out to Phonics Play, or however you want to link to those other resources. You can embed the link in the instructions. So when the pupils get it at home, they haven't got to worry about typing in an address bar, getting that website address incorrect, not being able to get to where they should do, and having to contact you to say that they couldn't get there. It's just a clickable link in the instructions. So it makes it nice and easy. The instructions themselves, I often find, even if I'm dealing with secondary, that bullet points are best. And a dense paragraph of text often causes people or students to get lost, confused, miss an instruction or important piece of information, and it just doesn't make for a good piece of homework turned back in. So I keep it as bullet points, but there may be times where it could be instructions that are actually the thing that you want them to read and then comment upon in a document back to you. So it might be that there is a reason it's appropriate for having a paragraph in there. Down at the bottom here, you can see that I've got a document attached. You need to think carefully about the types of documents you attach to assignments. When pupils get them at the other end, if it's a Word document or an Excel or a PowerPoint, you will be able to open it as a pupil, and it will open up here inside of inside of Teams, with Word inside of Teams, and you'll be able to edit straight away. So with that, You want to also think about PDFs. PDFs are great, but if it's a PDF, would you be better to take a screenshot of the PDF and pop it into a Word document? So even if there's questions on the page of the PDF, the pupil can answer the questions underneath on the Word document. So it saves you time with preparing resources. You might have gone to one of those resource websites where you pay a subscription and all the sheets are ready for you. But you don't want to have to recreate that in a document. So just do a screen capture a picture of what's on the page of the PDF and pop it as a picture into the Word document or the PowerPoint, and then get the pupils to author and edit from there. If it is going to be a PDF and you know pupils can do it and they've got parental support, you can get them to print it out and then write on it, but you'd have to have something like Office Lens from Microsoft to capture it back in and then send it back to you. I would keep it as simple as possible, and I'd have an editable document attached. If you're adding resources, click the Add Resources button, and then here it will automatically look at your OneDrive. Your OneDrive is your default location for anyone that isn't using it for storing all of your personal folders and files. Those personal folders and files then can be picked up, and you could go in, you can drill down, and if there's something in there that you wanted to attach, you highlight it, you press attach, and it would appear like the document we've got over there. You could also pick up pages from OneNote Class Notebook. That was in yesterday's bite-sized webinar. There you can pick up a page and you can send it to the pupil, but remember, they can also, if they've got enrollment into your class team, they could just go to the OneNote Class Notebook themselves and pick it up there too. As well as being able to embed a website address into the instructions, you can have it as an additional resource and it would appear there, and you can say if you'd like to have some text displayed with that. You can author a new file while you're here, so you can open up a new document and you can type straight into it and then save that and attach it. You can dip into other teams. So quite regularly I get the question, well, how do we collaborate? How do we work more effectively as a staff? Well, you can do that. If, for instance, what I needed to get was in the demo team there, I could go into class materials, and if there was a file in here, which there doesn't happen to be today, I could pick up that file and attach it, and I've borrowed it from the other teachers' resources. But it is all about working together and supporting each other, particularly when things are so challenging as they are. We want to make sure that we make life as easy as possible. If you want to get a resource directly from the computer you're working on, you press upload from this device. It will then launch the Windows Explorer window where you can either pick your documents on your computer, or you can have a network shared drive if you're working in school, and you can then attach the resource from there. So there's lots of ways to get resources in and attach to an assignment. Down the bottom, you can then choose whether you would like to issue points. Sometimes either for a friendly challenge or because it's relating to an exam we're preparing for. There might be 10 questions, therefore there's 10 answers, and I say it's a point per question. So I may occasionally use points, but I use them quite sparingly. A lot of pupils find them quite demotivational because they think they've got to get all the points available. So you don't have to have points. Leave that box blank and there'll be no points whatsoever. Another really powerful feature would be to add a rubric in. A rubric is a way to give an extra depth of explanation for your pupils. If you want to upload a rubric you've got before, you do it there at the top. If you want to create a new rubric, you can press the button top left. If you want to then reuse a rubric that someone else in the school has made or you've used previously, they will be here and in existence. So I know I'm showing you English, but if it was, for instance, maths, I might go into here. I've got the title of the rubric, the description of what we're doing. In this box here on the left, I would write my learning objective. And then over here, I would use my levels of challenge, whatever you use in your school: mild, spicy, hot, emerging, exceeding, mastery, however you describe level of challenge to pupils. And then in the boxes underneath, I almost give an explanation based on success criteria of what I would expect to see from a homework at the chosen level of challenge for the pupil. You can have points applied for this, or you can switch them off. So that was points on, points off. Doesn't matter. You can also delete a rubric, so you don't have to have 4 boxes. You can take some out to simplify it down. If you wanted just 2 or 1, you can add them in there as well. So you can have as many boxes as you wish within reason, and then you just press OK and you assign. So most of the time, I find that giving a description and instructions is sufficient, but there may be the time when you need to have a rubric as well. Then you decide where you're going to assign it to. You obviously are in your class team, so you're going to want it to be for the pupils you're working with, but it might be that you're a 2, 3 form-entry school, so you might decide to assign it. If you're a parallel year 2 class, that's my parallel year 2 class. So now I'm going to distribute across both those classes at once, and all the pupils in both those classes will get the same homework set. It's up to you. The options are there, and as long as you've got access to the other class teams in your school, you'll be able to do that. Within your class, you can find pupils to assign to, so there you've got the option to add them. Then you choose a date and a time when you wish to have it returned to you, and after that, you'll be able to just get on with the business of setting the homework. The very bottom option, I don't tend to mess around with it too much. I leave it as it is. What that translates to is that when I post a homework, it will then notify all the pupils in the post section. And the post section over here, for those people that weren't in one of the previous sessions, if I've set an assignment, if I scroll up, here's an assignment about Victorians. And as a pupil, I click the view assignment button and it will go to my own individual copy of work. It will not just go into the one single copy. So you can imagine when you set that assignment from the assignments tab, they all get their own copy, which is then unique to them. And you can have a one-to-one discussion with them about the work that they're undertaking. So if I put back into there, if you don't want them notified in the post, you go to edit and you untick the notify in posts. From working in many different educational phases with hundreds and hundreds of teachers, having it notified in posts is extremely useful and another way of jogging pupils' memories or students in secondary that they've got some work to get on with, because although they've got an assignment tab as a pupil and they've got an assignment tab over there, they don't always remember to go in and do the homework that's set in assignment tabs or a piece of distance learning work. If you've edited it and you know you're not quite sure or you don't want to assign it yet because it's for next week, you can discard it if you don't want it, or you press the save button, and when you press the save button, it saves up here in drafts. So down here are the 3 live assignments I've got available to me. If I want to see some of the previous assignments that I had there, you can click load previous and then they will all display. You can see there's quite a few that I've assigned here, but now my live ones are there ready and out there with pupils. Once they're out there with pupils, if I choose geography, you might wonder what this looks like from a pupil perspective. Well, let me show you. This is a teacher view at the moment. If I click the ellipses at the top, and you can always do this as well. If you go to student view, this is how it would appear. It strips away all that busyness. You have your title. It's a very minimal set of instructions in this example. This is my attached resource of a website that I want them to go to. There isn't any work to return because it's an exercise to complete on the website. And I decided to assign 50 points for some reason in this scenario. If that's still really complex and actually the literacy level is the way that it's going to be a barrier to the pupil being successful in their homework, don't forget, as we visited in previous sessions, you've got Immersive Reader, which is an accessibility tool from Microsoft in absolutely everywhere in Teams. If you click it, it will swap over from the homework view and it will bring it into a reader view where you can change some of the options about the way that this displays. You can also have it read to you as well at the same time. So if I press the play button,
Academy Geography,
it will read it out. And I've got other options in here where I can change size of text. I can have different fonts if I want it in a friendlier font. If I have a visual impairment, I need a yellow background, but there are plenty more colors in there as well. Might have a paler yellow background. I can also tag things like nouns, verbs, and adjectives, and I can have that either labeled in text or not labeled in text. And there's other options as well about having a narrow line focus if I have dyslexia and actually it's just too much text on the page and it's beginning to move around for me. I can focus on the sentence that I'm reading or being read. You can have a picture dictionary enabled as well. So when you click on a word, you get the pictorial version and you can read the individual word, but you can also see here it's displaying in Dutch, because over here for my EAL pupils, I can have it translate into other languages and you can choose that other language and you can fix that in as a pupil. So as a teacher, it's brilliant for you. You can prepare that assignment once and then the pupil or the parent can amend and change that to suit their learning needs or their language needs. And that can be done always from the Immersive Reader. And that appears in all different sections, posts, files, grades, class notebook. It's absolutely everywhere. For you, you can see if it's not been handed in. If somebody needs a little nudge, you can give them some one-to-one feedback. So that's private, unlike posts. You can also assign points there. But as soon as it's handed in, it will move over to the returned, and gradually they will all move over to be returned. And then you can go and mark them. Before I go across to mark them and show you what the grades tab is, I'm just going to pop back and pick up any of the questions that are over there. So you do have to wait for students to hand in all the work before your assignment disappears. No, you can dip in if you want. Well, it's still a live assignment and you can mark the pupils that have handed it in. I quite regularly get the scenario where I get most of the class handed it in on time, and I've got a few usual offenders, let's say, that are late in handing their homework in, so I get on and I mark the work from the ones that have been handed it in, and then I go and complete the others. Is it possible to copy a draft? I've not seen a function to copy a draft anywhere, unless anybody else on here has, and that's something I've had as a question before, but I haven't seen anyone instate that on the Microsoft side to be able to copy a draft. It says, can you access files from other Teams folders? Yes, you can. We showed that one on screen. Is there a way you can stop pupils having general conversation in posts? Yes, Ms. Shaw, you need to go into your admin settings and you need to disable the ability to use the reply button. That does have repercussions for other functions. If you want to know more about that, if you watch our bite-size training session from Monday of this week, we had quite a long session there on posts. How can you stop pupils getting notifications on their work being marked once it's accessed in the grade tab? Notifications are built in, so they will get notifications when you return work back. There isn't a way to disable those notifications that I've ever found. They always get notified. When you have feedback to students, do they get a notification? Yes, they will. And can you archive a completed assignment? The minute that you get all of the work in, it will go down to the bottom and it will come in as a returned assignment and it will archive. Then you've got a list of old assignments you no longer want. You can just delete old assignments, Ms. Laws, if that's something you don't want cluttering up. But the whole point of having old assignments is that being able to recycle them next year. So if you've got old assignments, they should sit down in the bottom in the return section rather than cluttering up anywhere. If you do delete them, that is your choice, but you'd have to recreate them the following year. So if you're going to recreate them, you might want to take a copy of them somewhere. You can't download them, so you would have to do a rather clumsy operation of cutting and pasting or copying and pasting. So the idea is to leave them in the return section, then recycle again. I'm going to pop over to Gradebook. So the Gradebook is like your mark book online. And if you want to, anything in here you can export out as a spreadsheet. If you want to then put it into some other progress tracking system, you might use another product. But for every assignment that you've got here, that's listed here and it's live, you will have a tab based on your gradebook where you've got a column for each assignment, and you're going to have 30 pupils. I've only got 4 in my example, but you can click on them, you can assign points there. Shows you if you've returned work back as it says return, but to mark the pupils' work, you can go to the 3 dots and go to open student work, and it will take you into a marking view. And this is really useful because it's a bit like sitting at the desk with a set of books. Now, if my pupils have bothered to hand anything in, which they haven't, I wouldn't see this little picture. I would see the document they'd returned to me, the Word file or whatever it is going to be. And I can then go in, have a look at it, mark it. On the side here, I've got the ability to move between the different pupils in my class. The feedback box mirrors the feedback box on the assignment section. And then down the bottom, you can see that there's the ability to award points if you've assigned points. If you haven't assigned points, that box will be ghosted out. And then you press the return button. This one I've already returned, which is why there's a green tick. But if I go and pick a pupil that I haven't returned to, there is the return box for me in purple. So I can return the feedback and the mark back to them. And then they get it back. It also tells me at the moment the reason I can't see anything is because they haven't handed it in, but I can go in here and I can see the history of what they've done, whether they've just viewed it and not handed anything in when it was assigned and so forth. So it gives me some visibility. If the feedback box is, come on, where's the work? I expected it in, we're past the deadline. You can use the feedback box for that if you wish. And once that's all finished, you press close and you get back to that view. As I said, the button up here in the top right hand corner is where you'd export to Excel. And over here in assignments, You've got the ability, I forgot to say, you can sift by categories of assignments. And you've also got some hidden options at the top here. If you go to assignment settings, you've got a few settings in here where you might be able to control the time on your assignment timeline even. You could also say about new students receiving assignments before they join a class. So you could have it that if someone's in a pre-group, they can get the assignment still. Notifications, you can edit them there as well, generally, rather than controlling them each time you get an assignment assigned. And you can turn the celebrations off. So celebrations are when you get everyone in an assignment that's handed it in, you get a little celebration. So you can have that off if it's annoying, or actually your pupils don't appreciate it and it gets on their nerves. So you can turn that off there. As far as the very small bite-sized session is concerned today, they're meant to be approximately a half hour, focusing on one specific aspect of Teams, and today is assignments and grades. So really now it's over to you. Have you got any additional questions to those that you've thrown into the chat, or anybody wants to unmute and ask anything, I'll pick it up from there. So I'm just going to go through and pick up the questions that have come in since I've last answered them. The students just add a comment and I'm handing it in, or does it always have to be a photo document? It can be just a comment if you wish. So for instance, if you set an activity on a website, they don't have to hand a file in associated with that, or they don't have to add a picture in or anything else like that. If the child wanted to tell us the score, so they could say, I did this activity on a particular website, I scored X amount of answers correct, and they could let you know that. That's fine. Can you reset the team for the following academic year? If so, how? Only duplicating the content. So when you get to the end of an academic year, your current team will go through what's called the archive process, and then you will see the previous year's archived team. It will just get frozen in time, and then you will get a new team created based on the pupils that join you for the new academic year, whether that's a new set if you're in secondary, or whether that's a new class if you're in primary. And the archived team is where you can then go and pull in the assignments from the previous year. So when somebody asks me about deleting assignments, I find it really useful to still go back to my previous team that's archived and steal the assignment out of there and bring it forwards. Can you copy a URL link into the instructions bit? Yes, you can, and there's a dedicated option for that. So the URL link is, if I went back into my draft assignment, the URL link's there in the instructions tab. If I went into here in instructions, there's the URL link. So you can do it in instructions, or you can do it as an add resource. The next question, is there a limit on how many times you can give feedback? Yeah, so once you've given feedback and returned it, it will lock. So while the assignment's active and you can add more feedback, there's no limit to it there, and you can give feedback in the box on that marking page. Once it's returned, it goes through there. If some of the assignments have become redundant and you don't want them in the grade spreadsheet, can you get rid of it? So are you asking in the grades mark book on the right hand side if you can get rid of the columns? If that is the question, let me just nip across there. In the grades book here, so if I've got an assignment, an old assignment, they will gradually stack out to the right hand side based on when they were last assigned. I've not seen a way, and I don't believe there's a way to get rid of these columns. They just stay there. But once your assignment has been, if I jump back over, once your assignment's been completely returned and all of that is marked off, it will move out. So such as the low previous I've got here, the reason they're staying in my previous list is because people didn't return them to me, or only one person out of the 4, which is why they're stuck there. If they're all returned, then they will move down to the return section at the bottom, which means they disappear out of the columns here. So you won't get them going across towards the right hand side. How do children add to the comment section assignment book? So if you were in his pupil view, and I must say I haven't logged in his pupil view in this particular section, you can add feedback on there too. Can you get rid of stuck assignments? If you've got stuck assignments like the ones I have in this demo version where pupils haven't returned it in, you could get someone from the administration role to go in and get them signed off for you. There isn't an easy way to do that as a class teacher, which can be slightly annoying. And there's certain things that always we're asking Microsoft to amend and update. And that is one of the things that I wish that I had control over, that if I went into this assignment here where it was assigned to 5 pupils, and nobody has handed it in whatsoever, there's not an easy way to get that in there. So you're stuck with it effectively. You can't get it handed in. You can't force it through. And you can see there, there's an example of one that's been viewed, but absolutely nobody in this instance has returned it. My returned tab is empty. It's all still out there on the to assign. So it's one of the things I would like to see myself, is the ability to force that to go into the return section and get rid of it so it doesn't appear in my grade book. But at the moment, I've never found a way to make that work. You can filter assignments by category. So if you go back, your category filter is up there on the top, so you can filter by the categories you've assigned. So then you only see assignments for that category. The next question is, are you notified when assignments are marked? Yeah, you will get a notification when things are returned in, and then you can go in and do it yourself. I tend to broadly wait until a day or two before, and that's when I start to look at the assigned homework that's due in. And if a pupil wants to know something, usually they will just notify me in post and say, I'm stuck on the homework, Mr. Long, can you give me a hand? Or we then go into a private chat. By default, if you've recently been through any of the DFE funded programs, private chat with pupils will be disabled. So you'll need to set up a separate channel where you can go and have those discussions as private chats with pupils, or you can do it through the feedback on the tab as well. Can you filter by category in the grades tab? Let me go and have a look. I don't think I've ever tried doing that. I don't think I've ever seen an option to filter by category in the grades tab. No, it doesn't look like you can. No, I'd expect to find it at the top. You can make feature requests to Microsoft as well, and there's quite often in Office 365 on the help bar, there's a features request section there. So if you've got anything that you want to get, you can badger them, and if they get enough requests, they do include it as features. So I quite regularly hit them with things that I'd like to see in some of the products that we work with as trainers, because I just think it make life easier and it's more intuitive for staff to use. Sorry, did you say that you are notified when children hand their work in? Yes, you are notified when children hand their work in. So you'll know when they've returned it. But you will also, if you came in and you didn't want to come in and have a look, obviously you get a notification. But if you came in, you would soon see, obviously, from the ones, if I went into there, that are in the return tab versus in the to return tab, but you do get a notification as well. You need to set your notifications correctly to get that notification. In bite-sized session 1, when we were looking at posts, we discussed how to set notifications and the options that are available to you. So you will need to set those, otherwise you wouldn't get one by default, but you can set it so you do get a notification about work being handed in. Any more questions? I'm more than happy to answer them. Okay, well, I'm going to stop the recording for this session.